Jesus says someone is stopping your miracle. Don't skip this message if you want to understand how this block is about to be cleared, and why this moment is different. Chosen one, the wait is over. God is now in charge of your whole life. This isn't a far-off thought or something that needs more time, prayers, or patience to come true. You've already made up your mind in a place where your name will always be written, no matter what time does. You went through a time that was meant to see how strong you really are. But I want you to really understand this. You didn't just get through that time, you beat it. Like gold going through fire. Not by trying to stay out of the heat, but by going right through it. You stuck to what you thought was true, even though nothing else around you showed it. God knows how much that kind of loyalty costs. He knows about the days you got up in the morning, even though you really wanted to stay in bed. The prayers that seem to have moved on to somewhere else. The honest, quiet times when the gap between what was promised and how your life was felt too big to believe. There is less room there now. The time for secret help is over. The next step is the time of clear results. The person who promised you a good future before you were born is building it right now, in the middle of your life. God is paying for a life in this way, and it starts today. Take a moment to notice what's going on inside you right now. You have a strong sense of knowing, and a quiet yes is rising from inside you. Right now, something feels different from other times. Believe what you feel. You can't just wish. It's your spirit confirming what the world of the dead already knows. Because I want to talk to you about the clues and signs that have been showing up in your life, in your body, and in the way you feel, long before there was any proof that you could see. These signs are not a mistake. They send a message. And that message has been talking for longer than you thought. I'll show you what it talked about. Sleep changes are often the first thing that chosen people notice, right before a big change in their food. Not just the usual lack of sleep that comes with being stressed. Something more clear and specific. Getting up early, sometimes at the same time every night, with a clear and sudden awareness of being awake, as if something other than normal sleep patterns has been calling you to a quiet place that daytime doesn't offer. As you lay there in the dark, you feel like you need to focus on something important. It's like the way a room feels when someone is giving an answer. Your body isn't acting up when you wake up. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the deep part of you that knows you need to be ready. Because you need to be present and awake in ways that your normal daily life hasn't required for the change you've been waiting for. It's not hard to fix the trouble sleeping. It gets you ready to receive. In the body, the second sign looks different. An uncomfortable weight that settles in your chest. You feel like your shoulders are too tight and won't let go. You feel like you're carrying something heavy and unseen through your day. This is what most people who feel it call stress. It's known as worry. They just carry it quietly. But let me tell you something different about that weight. What you've been carrying isn't a mistake. It has weight. The weight of things that are being held in trust, but haven't been given to you yet. In the last few weeks of a preparation season, the body of a chosen one represents a provision that hasn't been seen yet, but is real and on its way. You weren't making up the weightiness. What feels heavy before it comes is because it's not small. You can feel how important what's coming is. The third sign shows up out of the blue, and for no clear reason. You're just going about your day when all of a sudden your feelings get strong. Not really sadness. Not from a clear and known hurt. You might feel tired and wise at the same time, like a deep part of you is letting go of something it has been holding on to for longer than you know. Tears at the start of a season of giving are not signs of weakness. They make me feel better. The clearing that takes place before you get. The gap that makes room for what's to come. Don't fight this feeling. Allow it to go through you. Being with people and going to places that used to feel like home have been giving you the fourth sign. Things that used to make you happy are slowly no longer doing that. The things that used to make you feel energized now drain you more. When someone has been a big part of your life for a while, you feel like they're part of an ending chapter. Even if nothing major has happened between you, that's not being ungrateful. It happens when someone gets too big for a place that wasn't meant to be their forever home. You don't need to fix the unease you've been feeling in places that used to help you. It's a message. It's not big enough now. It's too small because what's grown inside you is no longer shaped by the season it was made for. It's possible that the fifth sign is the quietest, but it could also be the most accurate. How long? The right person showed up at the right time to have a certain conversation. A word from someone who couldn't have known what you were thinking or feeling in private. One door opened and then shut the same week. Not by chance, but with the accuracy of something that was carefully planned. An association that is too good to be called a coincidence. It's not a lucky accident. These are signposts, times that were put there on purpose to let you know that the person who set you on this path has not forgotten about it. The plan is still going to happen. 5 signs. And if you were honest, you knew at least 3 of them as I named them. That recognition is real, not just something you hope to believe. This is your spirit communicating in a language it already knows. There have been real signs. What they said about the shift being real. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site, you are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give, and it will be given to you. is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose, join the conversation, and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today, join our community, and see what God brings back into your life. But before the provision fully comes, I want to show you what was really going on during the season that felt like the opposite. It wasn't just a test of how long you could last that season. It made you stronger in some way. And you can't get what it was building by being comfortable. The Bible talks about a woman whose story fits perfectly with what we're talking about now. Ruth is her name. Her name comes from the language it comes from, and it means someone who stays when it's hard to stay. And the main thing she did was stay. She had lost everything that made her life make sense. Her husband was not there. Her neighborhood was no longer hers. She was in a spot between what she knew and something that didn't make any clear promises or promise to help her. She also made a choice that only someone who has been chosen can make. She chose to be loyal even though it didn't give her anything in return. "Anywhere you go, I will go," she told the woman who was traveling with her. "I will stay where you stay. Your people will become my people, and your God will become my God." Those weren't the smart words of someone trying to get ahead. Someone had said those things because they thought loyalty was more important than safety. Being willing to work was all she brought with her to a land that wasn't hers. She went out into the fields. She picked up the things that the harvesters had left behind. She worked quietly strong in the heat of a place she didn't know, and during a season that only gave her the little things that other people had missed. She did the work that was given to her in the way that it was given. And then one day, the farmer who owned the field where she worked saw her. She didn't plan to meet this person, but they were put in her path by a provision she couldn't have made. "I have heard what you have done," he told her. "I know that your loyalty is what drew you to this field. I know how much staying has cost you at times when it would have been better to leave. From now on, you can have everything I have. Join me at my table. Get what you need. We have you covered." Everything that had been closed was opened up in one meeting. It was no longer time to gather what other people had left behind. It was the start of the season of being fully covered and brought to where she was meant to be. That's Ruth. You've been working in a field that wasn't meant to be your last one. It took more strength than it looked like to gather the small, simple things that were available with honor. You stayed true during a time that asked more of you than it gave you. Even though things were bad, and most people would have given up, you kept your hands open and your heart pure. The landowner has turned around and looked at us. He has seen everything you've been doing. What he heard backs up what he already knew. That what he put in you was worth the work it took to get ready for. What that season was building up couldn't be seen at the time. That's how growth takes place. From above. You can never see what's being built beneath the surface of a life. In the dark, you can't see the roots growing. You could only feel the weight pushing down on you, and the pressure from above. The seasons seemed to do nothing on the outside, but they were actually building the foundations for the next season. I will tell you what was growing in you, while everything else seemed to be shrinking. The wilderness makes you trust each other in a way that can't be broken by comfort, because it wasn't built on comfort in the first place. Some people believe in God when things are going well. They really trust each other, but it hasn't been put to the test yet in ways that show if it holds up when support isn't there. When the real storm comes, trust that hasn't been tested often turns out to be more hope than certainty. You don't trust them that much. A trust that doesn't need proof to stay strong is something that you built up over time by holding on without seeing proof. One of the rarest traits someone can have is that it can't grow when things are easy. It can only be found after a season that had to have it, and you've been through that season long enough to have it deeply and permanently ingrained in you. Second, the wilderness makes you truly humble, not just seem that way. There are many people in the world who act humble, but really feel like they deserve better treatment than they're getting. If you want to be truly humble, open to receiving from people and things you didn't expect, you have to need something without getting it for a long time. This makes you lose your grip on self-reliance. You've been there, and something let go over time. The hands that were tightly shut, because they hurt from not having enough, began to open. That attitude of being open, and truly ready to receive provision from wherever it comes, is what provision needs before it can land. The desert opened your hand so God could pour into it. The third thing that you've learned is harder to describe, but it might be the most important. This is a trait of someone you can trust with heavy things, making sure they don't fall apart when the ground isn't stable, that they don't give up on what's important, even if it costs more than they thought it would, that they stay, that they keep working even though the work isn't giving them anything back yet, that they keep coming back to a story that hasn't given them its best parts yet, and won't put it down while it's still being written. Very few people, even those with real faith, have this quality. But someone who is receiving a major season of provision needs it. You were strong because you were able to handle the challenge. Take a moment to breathe here. Not because what comes next is hard, but because you have been carrying what I just named. And we should take a moment to honor that before we go on. What you built up during that time was not small. Everything else in the provision will be built on top of that. You didn't know that while you were building it, but you did it anyway. That's what being faithful does. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-Fi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself, Jesus says. This is not history, it is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. I'm going to tell you a name now. A name that fits right in with this discussion about provision. A name from the past, when words were picked with more care because of what they meant. It's called Jehovah Jireh. It was the name Abraham gave to a certain spot on a mountain where God took care of him when things seemed to be coming to an end. Abraham went up with a load that words can't fully describe. And just when they really needed it, God provided. At that very moment, not before, not while Abraham was still happy, and the need was still just an idea. It was named after a phrase that meant, "The Lord will see and provide." The root of the word jirah is ra, which means more than just to look at something from afar. It means to really look into it and get a sense of both what is happening now and what is going to happen in the future. It's not enough for God to look at the surface of your need. He sees the whole picture, the history, and everything that needs to be done to make it whole again. There isn't just enough from Jehovah Jireh. What He gives is proportional to what He sees when He looks deeply. For this season, what He is letting into your life affects 3 areas at the same time. Your relationships are the first thing that is being changed. There are relationships in your life that fit the person you were becoming, but not the person you are now. People who are bad don't come out more during the blessing season. Letting go of what has been taking up space makes the right kind of space. People who have been important to your story will begin to pull away. It's amazing that the pain will be less than you think it will be. Because new people will come in and make you feel like you're seeing someone you already know. God is changing the way your relationships work so that they fit with the future He is already making for you. Your sense of purpose and calling is the second thing that is being moved around. The doubt that has been following you around, the quiet worry about whether the things you are creating are really leading you somewhere, is beginning to fade. Not because you'll get all the answers at once. Once you step into the fog in the early morning, the way ahead becomes clear. Just like when you wait for the fog to clear from where you are standing. As you move, clarity comes. You don't get a full map from the season of provision. It lets you see the next step and the step after that. Things are starting to come together in the direction you've been asking for. There is something I need to show you about this moment before we go further. I want you to keep it in mind, because I am going to come back to it and give you the full picture of it later in this message. Researchers have spent years studying what happens inside the human brain during real breakthrough moments. At times when a life running below its true potential suddenly starts to work at what it was designed for. What these researchers found, led by a neurologist who has spent over 2 decades studying this specific thing, is that the brain at those breakthrough moments looks noticeably different from the brain still operating in survival mode. 2 parts of the brain that naturally and powerfully work together in childhood, but that the collected weight of adult pressure and survival slowly pull apart over the years. Those 2 parts reconnect, and when they do, something changes in a way that willpower and effort alone can't create. The ability to recognize what is being sent your way sharpens. The ease of receiving what has been released increases. The noise that has been drowning out the signal gets quieter to a level where the signal can finally be heard. A doctor built something from that discovery, something that makes the reconnection possible. I am going to show you the full picture of it. But first, there is more of your story to speak to. The third area being rearranged is the one most chosen ones have been holding their breath about the longest. The financial foundation beneath your life. I want to speak to this truthfully. What I am about to say is not a vague promise about numbers I cannot know. It is a declaration about structure, about the fundamental change that happens in the financial part of a life when the season of provision truly begins for someone. Prepared the way you have been prepared. God does not fund a chosen one the way a paycheck funds a month. He does not release provision in barely sufficient amounts. When the provision of Jehovah Jireh is released into a prepared vessel, it is designed not only to meet the current need, but to restructure the ground beneath it. There is a Hebrew word that captures this. The word is shalom. Most people know it through the related word, shalom, often simply translated as peace. But shalom, in the original Hebrew, means something more expansive: completeness, wholeness, the state of having nothing missing and nothing broken. And in the legal context of ancient Hebrew scripture, shalom described a specific kind of repayment, not merely restoring what was taken, but returning more than what was taken with extra to account for the loss. You have been without things for years that you should have had. The peace of a settled life, the ease of moving forward, the clear vision of a future that felt real enough to build toward. Shalom returns all of it. Not as a deal that makes the loss unimportant, but as the full understanding that the years were real, and that what arrives now fully accounts for them. You are entering a shalom season, and shalom doesn't mean comfortable. It means complete. But before the shalom reaches its full visible expression in your life, there is something standing between you and your complete ability to receive it. I want to talk about this directly, because this is the exact place most messages about provision skip over. And it is the place that most often decides whether the provision arrives fully or only partially. There is a particular fear that grows in chosen ones who have waited a long time. And it is not the fear most people would guess. It is not the fear that the provision won't come. It is something stranger and more quietly damaging. It is the fear that it will. I want you to sit with that for a moment without moving past it. The fear that the provision will actually arrive, because if it becomes real, the identity you built around yourself in the absence of the provision has to change too. The story partly built around believing without seeing shifts. When the seeing arrives, the person who was the faithful one waiting becomes the person who received. And that identity change for someone who has spent years waiting isn't simply welcome and easy. It asks you to receive without the protection of unmet expectation, which has kept you at a careful distance from full arrival. Beneath that surface fear, there is a deeper layer, a quiet feeling of unworthiness formed not in a single moment of despair, but through the slow gathering of years in which what was promised and what actually arrived did not match. When a person lives long enough receiving less than what was promised, the mind starts to quietly form conclusions through a process of gradual guessing that is only meant to protect itself. Something like this: maybe the promise applies more fully to others and comes to me in a smaller form. Maybe the gap between what I believed and what arrived is proof not of timing but of my worth. These are lies, but they feel like learned wisdom because they protect against the specific pain of hope that hasn't yet come true. So, let me state them clearly. You are not too broken for the promise. You are not too late. You are not the exception to a provision that works for all the other chosen ones, but not quite fully for you. The evidence of the waiting was not evidence of your smallness. It was evidence of the greatness of what was being prepared. What needs a lot of preparation before it is released is itself great. Long waiting is not low value. It is high stakes. You are allowed to believe this now. You are allowed to let go of the idea of your own smallness. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that apologized for needing what you needed. You are allowed to step into the provision that was built specifically for the size you actually are. You do not owe the years of lack a loyalty that keeps you operating small. You have given those years everything they required. That chapter is complete. You passed it. Now let me come back to what I promised to show you. The neurologist I talked about. The one who has spent over 2 decades studying what happens in the brain during breakthrough moments. His name is Dr. Daniel Barron. He practices in New York, and what he built is based on a discovery made by a researcher named Dr. Roger Sperry, who won the Nobel Prize in 1981 for proving something that most people never hear about in church or in school. Dr. Sperry proved that the 2 halves of the human brain are designed to work in perfect sync with each other. When they do, the whole brain lights up. In studies of children, 98% of them show this whole brain activation state naturally. They are open, creative, receptive, able to take in and connect information at speeds that most adults have stopped expecting from themselves. Less than 1 in 1,000 adults keep this ability. The rest of us slowly lose the synchronization through the accumulated weight of stress and survival, and the slow fading of what was once as natural as breathing. Let me tell you about a woman who found what Dr. Barron built from this discovery. She lived in Manhattan. She had grown up in a family that believed they were cursed. Her mother had told her from childhood that they were born under the wrong star. Her father gave 22 years of faithful work to a company, was promoted to the position he had spent his career moving toward, and watched the company shut down in the very week his promotion was finalized. Generations of evidence for a pattern that seemed impossible to escape. Within 3 months of using what Dr. Barron created, the pattern broke. She received a promotion she had not been seeking. A relationship in her family that had been broken for years healed in a way she had quietly stopped believing was possible. What she said afterward was not about being efficient or producing more. She said, "I think the family curse is gone." She said it directly to her friends and family. The family curse is gone. Because the pattern she had been calling a curse was the pattern of a brain working in disconnection. a brain unable to fully see and receive what was being sent toward it. The restoration of whole brain synchronization brought back her God-given ability to recognize opportunities, to receive provision when it arrived, to act from a place of full activation, rather than the reduced and guarded way of operating that years of survival had settled her into. What Dr. Barron built is called the Genius Switch. It is an 8-minute specific sound sequence, not a brain wave, not a meditation app, not an expensive clinical machine. A specific sound sequence that uses neural sync technology, built to reconnect both halves of the brain, and bring back the whole brain activation state that Dr. Roger Sperry won the Nobel Prize for describing. 8 minutes a day with headphones. No affirmations, no mantra, no effort beyond putting the headphones on and letting the sequence do what it was built to do beneath your conscious awareness. This is not for everyone who finds it. Most people scroll past it. Most people have settled into a brain running at a fraction of its capacity and stopped asking why. But you are still here. You are still asking the question that won't let you settle. That question is the question of someone who was made for more. And the Genius Switch was built for exactly that person. Dr. Barron's colleagues who reviewed this before it was released suggested it would be incredibly valuable at 500. At-home neurofeedback machines that achieve a partial version of what this achieves cost $7,000. Clinical sessions cost $300 per hour. Dr. Barron released the Genius Switch at $49. And because you have been present through this entire message, his team made it available for $39 today. That extra 10 off is specific to this page on this day. The price is set to increase, and this viewer-specific price is not guaranteed to remain available beyond today. 4 bonuses are included at no extra cost. A guided visualization covering money, love, health, and happiness. A grocery guide identifying 10 commonly consumed foods that actively block the brain function you are trying to restore, along with shortcuts that save over $100 per month. A classic book on abundance that is over 100 years old, available separately for $20 and included here at no cost. And a printable habits guide covering the 5 most important daily practices for building the life your calling requires. Everything is protected by a 100% rock-solid money-back guarantee. If it does not change the way you operate, you do not pay a single cent. Dr. Barron and his team stand behind this completely. Before you search for anything similar anywhere else, hear this. There are recordings on YouTube and on streaming platforms with similar labels. Dr. Barron's team studied those recordings. The majority contained no neural sync technology at all. Labeled to attract search traffic, but the actual technology was absent. The sequence built on Nobel Prize research is only available directly through Dr. Barron's team. The link in the description points to where he explains this himself, and where the genuine sequence is available. Now let me speak to who you are, on the other side of everything we have moved through together in this message. Not who you were in the waiting season. Who you are in the season of receiving. Because there is a version of you that has been waiting to be spoken to, and it has been patient long enough. You are a cycle breaker. The patterns that shape the generations before you. The money patterns, the relationship patterns, the patterns of almost and not quite. And so close but still not yet, those patterns end with you. Not because you are more powerful than everything that came before you, but because you were placed at the specific turning point of a family story that needed exactly what you were built to carry. You are the one through whom the provision enters the family line in a way that changes what comes after. The provision does not stop at the edge of your own experience. It flows through you into the lives connected to yours, and from them into the line cars that extend across years and generations you will not live to see in full. You are the entry point for a generational shift that your journey through the wilderness made possible. You are a builder, not only of the visible structures coming in this season of provision, though those are real and they are coming. A builder, first of invisible things of trust, of the kind of character that can hold what is given without being knocked off balance by it. The wilderness built a builder, and what a builder creates after being shaped by deep difficulty is not something fragile or short-lived. It is something built by someone who understands from the inside what things are made of, because they were made by those same things themselves. You are a voice somewhere in the years of waiting and enduring. You were given a language that people around you, who didn't have to go through what you went through, don't yet fully understand. There are people who will come into your life in this next season, who will need exactly what you carry. The raw, hard-earned version that knows from actual experience what it costs to keep going when keeping going is the only choice. You were formed in the wilderness so that you could speak truthfully and with authority to others who are still in theirs. And here is the fullness of what I want to leave with you today. The truth that sits at the center of everything this message has been moving toward. God never wastes what He allows. Let me stay with that long enough for it to reach past the surface of your mind, into the place where things are actually believed. Because the mind moves quickly past sentences like that without letting them sink in. So let me explain what it means specifically for your story. Every season that felt like nothing was there contained a hidden structure of provision. Every moment of lack was at the same time a moment of preparation. Every prayer that seemed to get no answer was a prayer whose answer needed more building than that moment allowed. Every door that closed was not God turning away from you. It was God protecting you from the version of the provision that wasn't yet built, to hold the person you hadn't yet become. The Hebrew word, shalom, holds this in its meaning. Not merely to restore, not merely to return what was taken, but to return with interest, to account for the loss. To make what was broken so complete, and so whole that the brokenness is not simply fixed, but made new. Shalom in its fullest sense describes the state of having nothing missing, and nothing broken anywhere in the life. Arriving at that state through the specific generosity of the one who oversees the repayment. What was taken from you in the years of lack was more than money. It was time. It was peace. It was the ease of a life able to move forward. Shalom returns all of it, as the full acknowledgement that every year of the loss was real, and that what comes now is more than what was taken. You are entering a shalom season, not a comfortable one, a complete one. And complete is better than comfortable, because complete is the kind that lasts. I want to tell you about someone, a chosen one, whose story belongs beside yours as a witness to what you are standing at the edge of entering. This person had watched a major financial support suddenly disappear. A contract that had been the main thing keeping a family together for years was ended in a single conversation with no prior warning. The loss was real. The pressure that followed was immediate and heavy. And what this person did in response is not the natural response when your foundation crumbles. Instead of reacting in panic, this person entered a period of deliberate and intentional silence. They stepped back from platforms and the constant need to be seen. They committed to 40 days of prayer and refocusing. The kind of work that looks from the outside like nothing useful is happening, but is in reality the most productive work possible. They held the crisis in a private space of faithful waiting and honest seeking. They did not announce the difficulty. They held it. On day 38, a call came in from a company this person had never contacted. Found through a connection so unlikely, and so specific that no normal explanation of probability could fully explain it. The contract offered was more than twice the value of what had been lost. Not just getting back to where they were before, but a shalom return, the original plus the interest on the loss. This person said afterward, "I proved myself in silence before I promoted myself in public." The silence was not emptiness. The silence was a field. The faithfulness given to it was the seed. And the harvest arrived when the season of the field was complete. You have been silent in places. You have held things privately that you did not tell everyone. That silence was not wasted. It was the field, and the harvest of it is arriving now. Before the closing word, let me clearly summarize what has been shared in this message. You came into this time carrying the weight of a long season. The financial strain, the relational burdens, the quiet questions about whether the promise was truly for you. What this message has offered is this: the signs you have been experiencing are real. The disturbed sleep, the heaviness in the body, the unexpected emotional waves, the growing discomfort in spaces that used to hold you, the perfectly timed coincidences. These are not symptoms of something wrong. They are the markers of something beginning. The transformation the wilderness brought in you was real. The trust that doesn't need visible proof. The humility that opened your hands. The proven quality of someone who stays when staying is costly. These are the specific qualities of someone who can carry provision. The word over your life is Jehovah Jireh, the God who looks into the full depth of what you need, and provides in proportion to what he sees. And the provision is shalom complete. Nothing missing and nothing broken. Returned with interest on every year. Take a breath here, a real one, before the closing word settles over you. You have been present through everything this message offered. Nothing to receive in this breath. Nothing to process or hold or analyze. Just the simple acknowledgement that you are still here, still standing, still breathing. That itself is something worth receiving before we go further. Now hear what is being spoken over your life. I hear the Father saying this to you in this moment, not judging, not still figuring out if you've qualified, but in the voice of one whose decision has already been made, and whose provision has already been released. He says, I have seen every moment. I have been present in every room you thought was empty. The nights when the numbers did not work, and you sat with the weight of it in the silence. I was there beside you in the silence. The mornings when you rose with the weight already on you, before the day had even begun. I was with you in the rising. The prayers that felt as though they had no destination, they arrived, every one of them. And what was built in response to them is larger than what you have been allowing yourself to expect. You are funded, not partially, not with conditions pending more faithfulness you have not yet shown. Completely and now in the fullness of what Shalom means, and what Jehovah Jireh has always meant. The provision has not been delayed. It has been released. Your part is not more endurance. Your part is receiving. So receive it now. Receive the relationships being reorganized to match who you have become. Receive the clarity arriving about what you are building, and where it leads. Receive the restructuring of the financial ground beneath your life. Receive the restoration of your God-given capacity to perceive and act on what is being sent in your direction. Receive the Shalom. Receive the interest on the years. Receive the completeness. And remember this, the genius switch is not a trick or a shortcut. It is 8 minutes a day of what your brain was doing naturally when you were 8 years old. Restored. If you were ever made for more than this, that is how you come back to operating at the level you were made for. You are a chosen one. You passed. And the one who designed the test is the same one who holds everything the passing earns. If this word landed in you today, if something in you relaxed when it arrived, if the part of you that knows before your mind catches up recognized what was spoken here as true, leave a word in the comments. The word is funded. Just that word. Write it as a declaration for yourself. Write it as a marker for the ones who come after you, who may need to see that someone stood at this threshold before them and received what was promised. That what was promised is real. If this message gave you something genuine today, let this channel know by leaving a like. Not as a transaction, as a signal that something real was exchanged here. That signal matters, because it opens the path for this kind of message, to find more people who are in the season you were in when this word reached you. And if you are not yet part of this community, consider staying, because what was offered today is not a one-time thing. There is more coming. More for the season you are entering. More for the version of your life that is now being funded. This community is for chosen ones in the process of becoming who they were always called to be. You belong here. This message is complete. But what it has set in motion in your life has only just begun. Go in the fullness of everything given here. Go in Shalom. Go funded. You are about to enter your divine future. But remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like, minded community. You are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary where we discuss the Word daily and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry when Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall, share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit Out Community now, join the family, and see your heavens open. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected, faith-filled community at the link in the description, and pinned comment, a place where divine abundance is not just a hope, but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary, where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.